I got revenge on my cheating wife at the company Christmas party. Hey Reddit, you won't believe what happened to me. It's a wild story, but I have to share it. My wife and I worked together at a small company, and the craziest thing happened at our annual company Christmas party last year. Buckle up because it's about to get real. To give you some background, our company is owned by a guy named Richard and his wife, Lisa. They're kind of the power couple of the office. Richard is your stereotypical alpha male, and Lisa is a brilliant and savvy businesswoman. My wife, let's call her Jane, and I were doing pretty well for ourselves. I worked in the IT department, while Jane was in marketing. We had been married for 10 years, and I thought things were going pretty great, until I started to notice some strange things happening. It all started when Jane began working late more often. At first, I thought nothing of it. Marketing had just landed a big client, and she was busy as hell. However, as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. She had become increasingly distant, and I noticed her texting on her phone more than usual. The final straw came when I found a receipt for a fancy restaurant I'd never heard of, crumpled up in her purse. Jane had claimed to be working late that night. My gut told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to freak out and jump to conclusions. Instead, I decided to do some digging. One night, after Jane had left for another late shift, I logged onto her work computer, which she had left at home. Being no stranger to technology, I quickly found my way into her work email. And there it was, right in front of me, an email chain between Jane and Richard. The content was explicit, to say the least. My heart sank as I read through their messages. It was clear they'd been having an affair for months. For a moment, I felt like my world was crashing down around me. I could have screamed, cried, or done something impulsive, but something held me back. I guess I knew that if I confronted her immediately, she'd have the upper hand. So I decided to bide my time and plot my revenge. I wanted her to feel the same pain I felt, but on an even bigger scale. I knew I needed concrete evidence of their affair, something that would utterly humiliate them. That's when I remembered the security system I had helped install at the office. There were cameras everywhere, including right outside the executive offices. A plan started to form in my head. I decided to use the system to catch them in the act. I ordered another camera that I would install in the system. It was a small wireless camera, disguised as a little golden globe of the Earth. I waited for the perfect opportunity, and it came a week later. Richard was out of the office for the afternoon, so I snuck into his office and set the globe nice and high on one of his many bookshelves. It was already connected to the Wi-Fi, so all I had to do was drop it and go. I left at 3:30 as always, and by the time I got home, Jane had texted me saying she'd be working late again. I knew this was my chance. I remotely accessed the office security system and waited. Sure enough, about an hour later, there they were, Jane and Richard, doing the dirty in his office. I felt my stomach twist with disgust, but I forced myself to record the footage. This was the key to my revenge. Now I just needed the right moment to strike. And that's when it hit me. The company Christmas party was just a couple of weeks away, and the whole company would be there, including Richard's wife, Lisa. I knew this would be the perfect opportunity to expose Jane and Richard's affair and get my revenge. As the days went by, I played the part of the loving husband, all the while secretly preparing for my grand plan. Finally, the night of the Christmas party arrived, and I felt a sick sense of excitement in the pit of my stomach. I had rigged a flash drive with the incriminating video set to autoplay as soon as it was plugged into the projector. All I had to do was wait for the right moment. The party was in full swing, with everyone dressed in their holiday best, enjoying drinks and making merry. I could see Jane and Richard stealing glances at each other from across the room, their secret little smiles making my blood boil. I took the opportunity to snag my wife's keys from her purse to help with the later part of my plan. Now, it was almost time. As the night wore on, Lisa took the stage to give a speech, thanking everyone for their hard work over the year. The projector behind her displayed a montage of company highlights. My heart raced as I covertly made my way to the back of the room, where the laptop connected to the projector was set up. I discreetly popped in the flash drive and, with a deep breath, set my plan in motion. I knew I had about 10 seconds to bolt away from the laptop before the video started playing, so I moved swiftly to the other side of the room and waited. Everyone was confused when the video footage switched over to a feed of the office. As the footage continued, it became obvious what was about to happen. Gasps and murmurs spread throughout the room as everyone realized what they were witnessing. Jane and Richard's faces turned ghostly white, their eyes wide with shock and horror. I could see the embarrassment and misery wash over them, and I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. Lisa's face was a mix of disbelief and fury as she looked between the video and her husband. The room was a cacophony of whispers and shocked expressions, but all I could focus on was the crushing humiliation Jane and Richard were experiencing. They were finally feeling the pain they'd caused me. Before anyone could react, Lisa stormed off the stage and grabbed Richard by the arm, dragging him out of the room. Jane, too shocked to move, just stood there as everyone stared at her, her face burning with shame. I watched for a moment or two until the place was just about out of control, and then I left her there, surrounded by the judgmental eyes of our coworkers. I completely ghosted the place and left her stranded at the party. When I got home, I grabbed her clothes out of the closet and her bathroom stuff and threw it all on the front porch. I locked the door and had both sets of keys with me, so there was no way she was getting into the house that night. Realizing I had left her, she tried to call and text me, but I did not answer at all. Every time the phone lit up, I would just laugh and flip it off. "Take that, stupid!" I found out a few days later that her sister had come to pick her up and bring her home. She didn't tell her sister exactly what had happened, but when she got to the house and found all of her stuff outside, she ended up having to confess. I mean, it was pretty obvious at that point, I would imagine. In the aftermath of that night, both Jane and Richard were fired. Lisa filed for divorce and, as it turned out, had a solid prenup that awarded her control of the business. She reached out to me a few days later, apologizing for what had happened and offering me a promotion. It seemed she respected the fact that I had outed her cheating husband in such a dramatic way. In the end, I felt proud that I had managed to get my revenge. It wasn't just about the public humiliation. It was about making them feel the same hurt they had caused me. I know some people might think it was cruel, but sometimes the only way to heal is to fight back. So there you have it, Reddit. That's the story of how I got my revenge on my cheating wife at the company Christmas party. I've since started the process of divorcing Jane, and with my new promotion, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. And as for Richard, last I heard, he's working at some fast food joint and living in a dingy apartment. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? Well, how do you feel I handled the situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more. Cheating Secrets Podcast.